There is no pipe running to this spot, no well within 100 yards. It has not rained here in 4 days, and yet right here, water is dripping into a collection trough, slow and steady like it has been doing it all night long. Because it has. That is clean drinking water pulled directly from the humidity in the air while the entire neighborhood was asleep. The device that produced it cost $12 to build and took less than an hour to put together. And the engineering principle behind it is over a century old. Now I am not going to pretend this is some breakthrough invention nobody has ever seen before. It is not. Fog collectors and dew harvesters have been used in coastal villages across Chile for decades. They have been deployed in the Atlas Mountains of Morocco and in rural communities throughout Ethiopia and Guatemala, places where the power grid does not reach and the wells went dry a long time ago. Engineers and aid organizations have understood this principle for more than 100 years. The reason most people have never heard of it is honestly kind of frustrating. It works too reliably and costs too little for anyone to build a business around selling it to you. There is no subscription, no proprietary replacement part, no app you need to download. You build it once with materials from a single hardware store trip, and the atmosphere does the rest, every single night. So let me walk you through exactly how this works, because the science behind it is something you have already witnessed 1,000 times in your own life and just never thought to connect to anything useful. Think about the last time you left a cold glass sitting on a table during the summer. Within 60 seconds, water is beating up and rolling down the outside. Nobody poured that water there. That is condensation. Now think about stepping outside early in the morning before the sun climbs too high and feeling wet grass under your bare feet. That is dew. Think about a spider web strung between 2 fence posts on a cool autumn morning, covered in hundreds of perfect little water droplets, like someone went out and decorated it overnight. That is atmospheric moisture surrendering itself to a surface that dropped below a very specific temperature. There's a number for that temperature, and it is called the dew point. When moving air makes contact with any surface that is sitting at or below that threshold, the invisible water vapor dissolved in the air has no choice. It condenses, turns liquid, forms a droplet, and gravity pulls it downward. That is the entire mechanism. A $3,000 commercial atmospheric water generator attempts to force this exact process using a compressor and a fan and a steady stream of electricity. A stretched piece of mesh fabric does the same thing passively, overnight, with zero moving parts and zero energy cost. And here is the number that puts all of this into a completely different perspective. The atmosphere above your head right now, wherever you happen to be sitting on this planet, holds roughly 37 million billion gallons of fresh water at any given moment. Let that land for a second. That is more water than every river on Earth combined, just floating there, invisible, suspended in the air around you. And almost nobody at the household level is collecting any of it. That is the gap this project fills. Here is every single thing you need. A 6x6 foot section of shade cloth mesh, the kind sold at any garden center or hardware store for about $5. You want the tightest weave you can find, something closer to a window screen than a volleyball net, because a tighter weave means more surface area for droplets to form on, and more contact points for the air passing through it. 4 sections of 1-inch PVC pipe to build a simple rectangular frame, about $2 total and sometimes free if you scavenge scraps. Zip ties, which you almost certainly already have in a drawer somewhere. A plastic gutter section for the collection trough at $3 to $4 from any hardware aisle. A few bricks or rocks to prop the whole assembly at the right angle. Your total cost lands between $8 and $14, depending on what you already have sitting in your garage. No specialized tools are required beyond whatever you use to cut PVC. Most hardware stores will make that cut for free if you ask. Assembly. Takes about 45 minutes, maybe less. Connect the 4 PVC sections into a rectangle roughly 4 feet tall by 3 feet wide. You are not building furniture here. It just needs to hold its shape and not collapse in a breeze. Zip tie the corners if you do not want to bother with elbow fittings. Now stretch the mesh across the frame and secure it with zip ties every 6 inches along every edge. You want it tight like a drumhead with absolutely zero sag. This matters more than anything else in the build because sagging mesh means water collects in low spots, pools up, sits there, and evaporates when the morning sun arrives. You end up collecting almost nothing. Top mesh means every single droplet rolls downhill immediately under its own weight. Now here is the one mistake almost everyone makes on their first attempt. They lay the whole thing flat on the ground. Do not do that. You need to tilt it between 15 and 30 degrees, as if you were leaning a picture frame against a wall at a shallow angle. That tilt is what turns the mesh into a collection funnel. Every droplet that forms slides down the surface, reaches the bottom edge, and drips into the plastic gutter trough you have positioned directly underneath. Face the mesh into the prevailing evening breeze. Just walk around your yard at dusk and feel which direction the air is moving from. That is where the front of your frame points. Elevate the whole setup at least a foot off the ground because air closer to the surface tends to be drier and warmer than air even slightly above it. Position the rig away from wherever the early morning sun hits first. You want the DW to keep building through the entire night and still be sitting in that trough when you walk outside at dawn, not burned off by sunlight before you even wake up. Set it up before sunset. Come back at sunrise. That is the entire routine. Under average conditions, moderate humidity, temperatures in the mid-50s, no fog and no rain, a single panel this size will pull roughly half a liter overnight. That sounds modest until you realize those are about the most unremarkable atmospheric conditions imaginable. Nothing special about that night at all. In humid climates, coastal areas, river valleys, anywhere that morning fog tends to roll through, people report pulling 1 to 2 liters from this exact same setup in a single night. Scale the mesh up to 10 by 10 feet, or run 2 or 3 panels side by side, and now you are producing serious daily drinking water from something you built on a Saturday afternoon. Now the question everyone asks next is, can you actually drink this? The good news is that atmospheric water starts cleaner than almost any surface source you can name, because it has never touched the ground, never run through soil or aging pipes, and never picked up agricultural runoff or industrial sediment. The main concerns that develop over time are small particulates shed by the mesh itself and trace pollutants if you are building this near heavy traffic or industry in an urban area. The fix costs about $3 and takes 5 minutes to assemble. Cut the bottom off a plastic bottle, flip it upside down so the neck points downward, and layer your filter materials inside from bottom to top. Cotton first, then activated charcoal, which you can pick up at any aquarium store for a couple of dollars, then a layer of fine sand, and then a final plug of cotton at the top. Pour your collected water through and let it drip out the neck into a clean container below. For absolute confidence, boil the filtered water or add 1 single drop of plain unscented household bleach per liter and wait 30 minutes. That brings it to the same safety standard as treated municipal tap water. Depending on where you live and how old your local pipes are, it is probably cleaner. The part of this whole project that sticks with me the most is how ancient this knowledge actually is. The Inca Empire constructed stone structures in the Andes, specifically engineered to condense drinking water from mountain fog. Fog nets have quietly supplied villages in the Canary Islands for generations. There are Bronze Age wells in the Negev desert that archaeologists now believe were never designed to store water at all. They think those structures were built to produce it, pulling moisture from the desert air the same way your $12 mesh panel does tonight. Somewhere in the last 100 years, as indoor plumbing expanded and municipal water systems became the default in most of the developed world, we simply stopped thinking about any of this. The tap worked fine, so the old knowledge gathered dust on a shelf and nobody passed it along. $12 in one afternoon puts that knowledge back in your hands. I have no idea what brought you to this video. Maybe you are thinking seriously about emergency preparedness. Maybe you are living off-grid and this fills a gap you have been trying to close for a while. Maybe you just enjoy building things that actually do something useful and you stumbled onto this at 2 in the morning because you were curious. Whatever the reason, it doesn't matter. It works either way. Now you know how to do it. If this was useful, subscribe for more. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.